Well, the state of the climate is not very good, and I think the morale of climate scientists has never been lower. In the last year, the concentrations of carbon dioxide are at record levels. Carbon dioxide, the leading greenhouse gas, is at record levels. And when I say record levels, I don't mean it's the highest concentration for 6 months, or 1 year, or 5 years, or 10 years. The concentration of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere is the highest it has been for at least 800,000 years. Get your head around that. And that's because of us. We have burnt fossil fuels, and the amount of carbon in our atmosphere that we are breathing day in, day out, that's affecting the temperature of our planet, is the highest it's been for 800,000 years. Temperatures in 2024 and 2025 are at record levels. Again, that's not the highest temperatures in the last couple of years. Highest temperatures of the last 10 years. Indeed, they're the highest temperatures of the last 120 years. But that's not the problem. They are the highest temperatures, speaking as a climate scientist, that we've experienced for approximately 120,000 years. Get your head around that. That the temperatures that we have currently, today, in April, in 2025, are the warmest that we've experienced for 120,000 years. Our sea levels as recorded at Marina Bay, recorded in London in the Thames Estuary, or recorded in San Francisco Bay, or in Sydney, or in Jakarta, or in Hong Kong, are the highest they've been, not for 10 years, not for 50 years, not for 100 years, for 120,000 years. So we're in a state of our climate in uncharted territory. And we know that the only way is up. If we don't control our greenhouse gas emissions, our temperatures will continue to rise at exponentially faster rates. Our sea levels will continue to rise exponentially faster rates. But the great hope is that we have the solutions available. All we need to do is act. We know the problem. The problem is burning of fossil fuels. So what's the solution? Burn less of fossil fuels. Unfortunately, we have the technology to do that. We have the technology to do that actually is cheaper than the way that we produce most of our energy through oil, gas, and coal. We also know that we have to save planet Earth, that climate change, biodiversity, and the ability of our planet to absorb the carbon is intrinsically linked. So the solutions are out there. But we have an inability to act, not on an individual basis. Most people know that they must live a sustainable livelihood. Most people are aware of the climate crisis, are trying to reduce their energy consumption. They're trying to recycle or reuse their resources. But what are your governments doing? What are your big businesses? If we just think about governments, one of the things that the individual can do is use in democratic societies the ability to vote. But are your elected officials thinking about climate? Singapore, look at me. I am outside doing this filming at 11 a.m. It is so hot. It is really hot. I cannot continue to do this because I will make myself unwell. But what are my elected officials doing about that in Singapore? We have an election right now, and is climate change a topic of concern? But that isn't limited to Singapore. We had elections in the UK, and then we had elections in the United States, where you had completely contrasting views between a Republican and a Democratic candidate. But was climate change brought up where Democrats believe that climate change is real? Democrats understood the problem, generally, and wanted to do something about it. And the Republicans were the polar opposite. And if we think about polar, one of the things that I always say is that when an iceberg melts, it doesn't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. It just follows the laws of physics and it melts. So the climate scientists, we are incredibly frustrated because we are breaking records year after year after year on carbon dioxide, temperatures, and then their impacts in terms of the severity or the intensity or the extent or the duration of wildfires, flooding, heat waves, droughts. All of these are occurring in increasing intensity. Example, California, richest country in the world, in the richest state in the United States, in one of the richest neighborhoods in the United States, burnt uncontrollably. The greatest extent of wildfires ever in the state of California. And it occurred in winter. Think about that. Yes, we have these extreme events, but we're breaking records. And a wildfire in winter? Our world is moving into uncharted territory and we must act, but we have problems. Right now, we're dealing with an erosion of science. Right now, we're dealing with climate change perhaps not being the grand challenge. Every single year, there is another problem, but behind it all is climate change. When is climate change going to be the priority? Here in Singapore, for some reason, it's less of a priority this year, according to a survey, than previous years. Well, look at me, I don't think it is. Has it got any cooler here today? Or this year? No, it hasn't. The United States, which is hit by horrendous tornadoes, tropical cyclones, heat waves, droughts, wildfires, flooding. They now have an administration who thinks climate change is a hoax, but more worrying is their impact on the scientific community, because for the last 80 years, the United States has been the great supporter of climate change. They've invested more money in climate change than the rest of the world combined. They collect the data on climate change. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is recorded by the US administration. From a volcano in Hawaii, it has the ability to record carbon dioxide for the world. Our ice sheets, their extent, how much they melt, is recorded by the Americans. The oceans, how they transport heat, their circulation, the impact on biodiversity is recorded by the Americans. So with the erosion of science, with the lack of belief in climate, we need our American partners more now than ever. So if I try to conclude, climate change is a wicked problem. It's going to impact everyone, but because of the nature of the Earth, we don't know when and where and who exactly will be impacted. But the hope of climate change is that we have the solutions. We just need to, I don't know, it's difficult. If it was easy, we would have done it. But we need to be able to communicate the threat of climate change like never before, because there is something about being too late. There is something about being too late. There is no vaccine for climate. We cannot, in 10 or 15 years, go, oh, you scientists, you were right. We should have done something. You can't do that. It's too. When climate change happens, you can't regrow an ice sheet. Well, you can, but it takes over 100,000 years. You can't cool down an ocean. Well, it will happen, but it'll take at least 10,000 years. Climate change is like a runaway train. Once you set it in motion, It'll just continue to happen. So we need to act upon it now. We have the solutions. It's all about your behaviour. Yeah, we need to make this the grand challenge. And why I say that is that although we live in a world where there are regional wars in Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, but unfortunately the makeup of civilization is that we continue to have these most disastrous of regional or global wars. 4 years ago we had the pandemic, but unfortunately these pandemics occur periodically. Ebola, Spanish flu, the plague. But we've never had climate change. The history of civilization since Mesopotamia, 7,000 or so years ago, climate has been stable. We have prospered. Our future, if we don't control climate change, takes us beyond the limits of human adaptability. I'll say that again, human adaptability. We must act. Please. Thank you.